All right, let's dive into this health treasure chest you've sent us. You want to burn that belly fat, right? And boost brain power, too. Sounds like you're all about feeling incredible inside and out. Am I right?
You hit the nail on the head. It's like we're uncovering the secrets to not just a trimmer waistline, but a sharper mind, a healthier life, the whole package.
And judging by this YouTube rabbit hole, you've been hanging out with some health-obsessed CEOs, huh?
Definitely. And we always got to take those celebrity health journeys with a grain of salt, right? But there are often those little nuggets of wisdom hidden in there, if you know where to look.
Which is where you come in. So, muscle. This CEO and his doctor buddy, they were all about muscle mass for living longer, especially after 60.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Staying strong, enjoying life. But what about someone like you, a bit younger? Is building muscle a now thing or a later thing?
Love that question. Gets right to the heart of longevity. It's not about just tacking on years, right? It's about adding life to those years. And yeah, after 60, muscle mass is huge. But think of it like this. You wouldn't wait till you're 64 to start saving for retirement, right?
Nope. That compound interest, gotta love it. Start early, stay consistent, boom.
Exactly. Muscle mass. That's your retirement fund for a vibrant life. Investing in your future well-being.
So never too early to hit the weights.
Never too early to build healthy habits.
Speaking of habits, this CEO, intense workouts, oxygen, grounding mats, the works. But then there's Dr. Tim Spector, the scientist. He's saying exercise doesn't really lead to weight loss long term. That's going against the whole calories in, calories out idea.
It's definitely a bold statement, challenges the conventional wisdom, for sure. But Dr. Spector, he's not saying exercise is useless. Heart health, mood, cancer risks, it's amazing for all that. But for weight loss, his research suggests it's not the magic bullet people think. Our bodies are really good at conserving energy, you see.
So if I run for an hour, then have a huge slice of cake, I'm not doing myself any favors.
You're getting it. Calories burned versus calories consumed. Dr. Spector's saying maybe what we eat matters more than how much we exercise, especially cutting down on refined sugars.
Which leads us to his next bombshell. Sugar is the real villain, not just calories. He even suggests sugar companies might have nudged research towards exercise to take the heat off sugar.
Interesting perspective. Makes you wonder about how funding impacts research, right? Dr. Spector isn't saying it was some evil plot, but maybe there's a bias in what gets studied based on who's paying for the research.
Hold on. You're saying there was more focus on exercise because it helps certain industries, even if it wasn't the best way to tackle obesity.
It's something to consider. Doesn't mean all exercise research is bad, but it's a reminder. Gotta look at the context. Who funded it? What are their interests?
So, our listener, bombarded with exercise and weight loss messages, how do they figure out what actually works?
I think the big takeaway is be informed about the info you're getting, about the food you're eating. Don't write off exercise. It's still crucial. But don't think you can just outrun a bad diet either.
Finding that balance, right? Enjoying movement, fueling your body with good stuff.
Exactly. Sustainable choices for your well-being. And speaking of food and cravings, this CEO, he had some interesting stuff to say about dopamine. He interviewed this doctor, big on a 48-hour dopamine reset fast, to break free from those addictive patterns. With sugar, of course. You mentioned wanting a sharper mind. This dopamine reset could be a big part of that. Ever tried any fasting yourself?
I've tried intermittent fasting a bit, but 48 hours, just thinking about it makes my stomach growl. But dopamine reset, man, that's intriguing. Is there actual science behind it, or is it just a buzzword?
It's a little of both, honestly. Research on this specific type of fast is still new, but there's more and more evidence that fasting can really change how dopamine signals in your brain.
Okay, so how does that work? I thought dopamine was like the feel-good chemical, not something you could reset.
It is the feel-good chemical. But when we're constantly giving our brain those good feelings, like with sugary treats, our dopamine sensitivity can actually decrease. We need more and more to get that same satisfaction.
That explains my love-hate relationship with cookies.
Exactly. Less sensitivity, more cravings, even addictions. Fasting, though, it seems to boost dopamine sensitivity, like hitting refresh on your brain, finding pleasure in simpler things again.
So instead of a dopamine rush from chips, I might get it from, like, a salad.
You got it. Now, I'm not saying a salad's going to be as exciting as chips, obviously, but when your brain gets a break from those dopamine spikes, you might not crave the unhealthy stuff as much.
Game changer. Especially when those sugar cravings hit. But what about weight loss and fasting? We talked about how exercise isn't everything. Sounds like fasting might be another piece of that puzzle.
Absolutely. Fasting can be powerful for weight loss, not just from eating less, but how it might change our hormones and how our body handles dopamine.
Okay, research dopamine fasting is going on the to-do list.
Hmm.
But before we move on, this stress contagion thing,
Yeah.
the CEO mentioned it, kind of blew my mind. A leader's stress can actually impact people around them physically. Like, their stress could lead to belly fat in their employees.
It sounds kind of crazy, right? But there is some really interesting research on it.
Really? I got to hear this.
So humans, we're wired for empathy, not just emotionally. Our bodies can actually mirror the stress responses of people around us.
So if I'm stressed, the person next to me could start pumping out stress hormones too.
Exactly. Think about our ancestors. Out in the wild, if someone senses danger, their body goes into fight or flight. Everyone around them, they need that same response, even if they haven't seen the danger yet.
Wow. But how does that lead to belly fat?
Remember cortisol, the stress hormone. It controls metabolism and how we store fat. Chronic stress, cortisol stays high. And where does our body love to store fat when cortisol is high?
The belly.
You got it. Our bodies haven't figured out that a stressful meeting isn't a predator.
So I can be stressed firsthand and absorb it from others, messing with my hormones and potentially my waistline.
Exactly. And it's not just belly fat. Chronic stress, whether it's yours or you're picking it up from someone else, it's been linked to all sorts of health problems.
This is starting to sound like a public health crisis.
Mm.
So if stress is like contagious, what can we even do? Besides, showing up to work in a hazmat suit.
That's where things get interesting. We can't always control other people's stress, right? But we can control how we react to it. And that helps us, but it can actually create a ripple effect, make things calmer around us too.
So we become like little oases of peace.
Exactly. Building resilience. And it starts with self-care, sleep, moving your body, nature, mindfulness. Those aren't just buzzwords. They really help regulate your stress.
Funny you mention that. This CEO, he talked about his friend Dana White, credits this intense superhuman protocol with helping him live longer. Magnets, oxygen therapy, red light, the works.
The superhuman protocol, huh? Sounds intense.
I got to admit, the magnets thing threw me off a little.
A healthy dose of skepticism is always good. The science on some of that stuff, especially the magnets, is shaky at best. But I do think there's something valuable about this whole biohacking trend.
Okay, tell me there's more to it than just sleeping on a magnet mattress.
It's the routine, the consistency. The CEO, he really emphasized that, even a few minutes a day, but make it a habit. That's where the magic happens.
So it's less about the specific thing, more about sticking with it, being intentional.
Exactly. The best routine is the one you can actually maintain.
Makes sense. This has been eye-opening. We busted some exercise and weight loss myths, talked about the food industry and research, stress contagion, even dipped our toes into biohacking.
It's all connected. Physical health, mental health, our environment, and what we can do to take charge.
Seems like a healthy weight and a healthy life, it's about way more than just calories or the latest fads.
It's about listening to your body, understanding what it's telling you, making choices that support it.
And having some fun along the way.
Of course. Being healthy shouldn't be a chore.
Absolutely. This deep dive has given us so much to think about. Building muscle, managing stress, being mindful of who we spend our time with. Tons of great insights for a healthier, more vibrant you.
It's been a pleasure diving into all this with you. Remember, knowledge is power.
And who knows, maybe we'll do a whole deep dive on dopamine fasting soon. But until then, keep those questions coming and keep on diving deep.